project. So we're going to be presenting today on vegetable safety post-flooding. And Candace, Anil, Georgette, and myself, Phaedra, will be sharing our knowledge with you, and hopefully we will not disturb you too much. Very informative. So on every single table, you have a pretest. We'd like you to fill that out, take 30 seconds, fill that out, and then we'll collect that to determine your knowledge of food safety. Alright, so it looks something like this. Do you have an extra? Okay, so whilst you're completing that, you'll also have 3 cards on your table. 3 colors, the 3 topics that we're going to be presenting. Each topic is color-coded on the slide, so as we progress during the lecture, take a moment to just fill out on the color card any ideas or topics or content that is unclear, that is muddy. Alright, so I'm going to let Candace take over from here.
Alright, so good morning everyone. So with our recent floods that we had, most of us were not directly affected by flood waters. However, would you eat produce, such as my melon and my cabbage? Would you eat these produce if they were harvested in flood waters? No. So we now go to
Yeah, so our learning objectives are to recognize the role of produce in transmission of foodborne disease, and then to identify the food safety practices at home which can help to mitigate the transmission of these diseases. So our learning areas are the sources of contamination, how contamination occurs, and the food safety recommendations. And again, these are color-coded to the cards that you have on with you, so if you write out any issues or any ideas that may not be totally clear, as you say, muddy. So, how big of a problem is flooding in Trinidad? We usually have 30% of our agricultural lands are at risk of flooding annually. This is irrespective of the large amount of rainfall we had a couple of weeks ago. And this is not me, this is another person. Yeah. In terms of our water contamination, we'll talk about EMA 20 years ago stated that all surface and groundwater was at risk of contamination from effluents from farm and livestock farms. We look at 20 years post after now, the increase of the housing is even a greater risk. Okay? So how does flooding occur? Well, the sources, we look at microbial contamination, we talk about human and animal effluent. And a lot of you all have seen this picture on Facebook where the farms are flooded. Not only the farms are flooded, but also the manure pits, the lagoons, all of those are now entering into our surface water. Also, we know people's houses were flooded, their septic tanks, their outhouses, all of that have now overflown and the waterways are contaminated. In addition to microbial contamination, we talk about chemical contamination and heavy metals, petroleum products. We think of all those garages and factories and all that were affected. Their waste has now entered into our water supply. So how contamination occurs? We have direct from the flood water and silt, which is pretty straightforward. And we have indirect, which is irrigation water, which is the silent one that people use irrigation water thinking that it's safe. By the time it's contaminated with all this with the animal and human effluents. So we ask this question: should produce from flooded farms be used at this point? Anybody? Yes, no? No, right? So in any language possible, we say no, should not be used. Right? What about washing? Could we wash it and it's contaminated on the surface, we wash it, are we okay? No. So there is a reduction in surface contamination, but we face the issue of bacteria being internalized into the leaves of the plants. So you look at example, if a lettuce plant and within the stoma, you actually have bacteria, in this case salmonella, getting in there. So no matter how much surface decontamination you do, you can't get rid of that bacteria. Additionally, if you have the soil being heavily contaminated, bacteria can actually transfer through the roots and get into the leaves of the plants. Again, a source of contamination to persist. So what are some of food safety recommendations? Well, first of all, you don't consume any produce coming in contact with floodwater. Leafy greens are a big problem because they're consumed raw. So your lettuce, your cabbage, your watercress, watermelons, tomatoes, and melon, all of those are problems, right? Your plants underground are not insulated. And some people think of that carrots is underground, so they'll get access or doesn't come in contact with the floodwater. But yes, it does. So it can become contaminated. And for the reasons mentioned before, about internalization of bacteria, peeling will not help. So what you could do, one, buy from reputable farmers. Remember, cheap thing, no good, right? You all know that saying. So if tomatoes are selling at $20 a pound and post-studying someone selling at $5 a pound, it's not a deal you're getting. Okay? What about sanitizers? Well, one thing you do is wash off the organic matter first. And in case of tomato and melon, you want to ensure water is 10 degrees above Celsius, because if it's too cold or at room temperature, it actually sucks whatever the surrounding water into the fruit. So you need to ensure it's temperature itself is warmer. You could use bleach at 1 teaspoon per gallon, and you want to soak that in for 10 minutes and then rinse with clean water for 5 minutes. Again, that reduces your surface contamination, but that they can chemical contaminants. And finally, the last thing is to ensure the food is cooked thoroughly. That is the best step in terms of preventing microbial contamination of food. All right, so at this point, we'll ask any questions.
So what you can do in this time, you can also just jot down on your cards any points that were unclear to you.
Right, so any muddy, all the 3 points we covered, any muddy points that you have?
Temperature to wash off the vegetables, right? So you said
Should be 10 degrees.
should be above 10 degrees, but then you said
10 degrees above room temperature.
Oh,
But if it's too cold, then above room temperature actually creates a
Can you use vinegar? I don't know if it's something that you're
in some cases, you can't use all wheat. You know, be concentrated vinegar is a dilute vinegar.
Okay, so these were the 3 categories that would represent the colors on the slides. So if you have identified throughout the presentation any muddy points or any areas where we were talking about these topics that were still unclear, that's what the index cards are going to help us identify, right? So when we're talking about sources of contamination, if there's anything that you want to clarify there, if how contamination occurs, or in the food safety recommendations. So you choose a color of the index cards and you write probably something that you want clarification on, or something that was not clear to you. Right? And then we collect those cards. So this sort of exercise of the muddiest point would be used at the end of the lecture, especially if it's a large class. So given the lecture, we would then, using an index card, ask the students to write down the point that was most unclear to them, and then at the end of the lecture, especially if it's a large class, collect those cards, which we will then do. So we'll give you a minute to write down your muddy point. Yeah, 30 seconds to write down your muddy point, and we would collect these. More than a quarter of the class that have identified one point, you'd want to address that in a subsequent lecture. If it's a smaller percentage, maybe you'd want to address it in a tutorial or with some sort of directed exercise. So for us, we identified in the blue, which would have been the blue colored index cards, addressing effective washing procedures. And one of the questions regularly, is there an effective washing procedure that can be used to reduce contamination of produce post-flooding? So we've addressed this by looking in a bit more detail, identifying the use of using a bleach solution to adequately wash the vegetables. So talking about using a sanitizing solution and addressing how to apply that sanitizing solution to wash these in a directed manner, how to wash these the vegetables.
Yeah, that's what, yeah. So as Georgette was saying, depending on our responses, we dedicate time with either a lecture or directed reading towards addressing the topics that we consider the most or the muddiest topics. Okay? Right.
Yeah, and then depending on it, you can now quantify that using tools. So some of the groups before use nice tools to collect responses, and that will allow you to a little bit more quickly. This is visual and nice for small classes.
So you have to post the test.
We will collect your post-test now. So just flip over, fill that out.